Welcome to Apex Ascent, where we teach lions how to rise and roar. You're the lion. Now it's time to rise and make your voice be heard. I'm your host, Rodney LaBruce, and this is our second episode. And today we're going to be unpacking a hard truth, and that is the myth of meritocracy in America. I know you've heard it all before. Just work hard and you'll make it. But what happens when you work hard and still you can't get ahead? What if the ladder to success is broken? Or even worse, it was never intended for you to use in the first place? Let's talk about that reality. Dr. King said it best when he said, "It's all right to tell a man to lift himself by his own bootstraps, but it is a cruel jest to say to a bootless man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps." We've all heard the story, right? If you come to America tired and hungry and ready to work hard, success is inevitable. It's the classic immigrant tale where we've all heard the term the American dream. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, they say, and you'll eventually reach the promised land of prosperity. But let's be a little honest if we can. That story is more myth than reality. The idea that success is earned solely through hard work is comforting. It gives us hope. It tells us that anyone can make it if they just try hard enough. But that also allows us to ignore the uncomfortable truth. Hard work alone just isn't enough. Success does not just come from hustle, it comes from help. So let's look closely at who actually becomes successful in this country. Time and time again, it's those who start with access to resources, wealth passed down through generations, and networks that open doors to opportunity, and quality education that's often tied to zip codes rather than merit. Safety nets like family support when you get in trouble, you always have someone to lean on. Minor things like health insurance and access to even emergency funds. Most people who succeed do not do so just because they worked hard. They all had support, community, a program, even a mentor, or just a moment of grace that shifted their path. And when people don't succeed, it's always because they just didn't try hard enough. Often it's because the system was never designed to help them rise. Now, don't get me wrong, hard work does matter. It does build character, it builds discipline, and it builds resilience. But if we keep telling people that all they need to do is grind a little harder, then at the same time we deny them access to things like capital and healthcare and even education or housing, then we're not offering them fulfillment. We're setting them up for failure. The American dream shouldn't be a prize reserved for the privileged. It should be rebuilt on a foundation of equality and equity and access and opportunity. So let's retire the old myth of hustle and let's start telling the truth that real success is collective. It takes a society that helps people thrive and not just survive. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine two people graduating from college. One walks across the stage debt free because of family support. The other walks off stage with $60,000 in debt and no safety net. Now, both may work just as hard, but one is running a smooth track. The other, he's climbing a hill with a weight strapped to his back. Same finish line, totally different path. And let's not forget, wealth in America isn't just about income, it's about ownership. People who own land, own businesses, stocks, or intellectual property build wealth faster than those living paycheck to paycheck. But those paths to wealth historically were blocked off by Black Americans, indigenous communities, and even other marginalized groups through things like redlining, discriminatory lending, and even outright violence. Take the Homestead Act of 1862, for example. This was a federal law that gave away 160 acres of public land to anyone willing to live on it and cultivate it. Millions of white Americans benefited from this. Millions of those same Americans built generational wealth and passed it on as a legacy. In fact, it's estimated that 46 million white Americans today, that's about a quarter of the non Hispanic white US population, descends from homesteaders, people who benefited from this land. So, technically, yes, the act was open to all citizens, including newly freed Black Americans. But in practice, Black people were largely excluded. Why? Because the act passed during the Civil War before slavery was abolished. So enslaved people were not eligible. Even after emancipation, Black families still faced discrimination by local officials, lack of financial resources, and violent intimidation from white settlers. While white families were building generational wealth through government backed land ownership, Black Americans were systematically left behind. And we still feel that legacy today, even in the world of entrepreneurship. Let me give you a comparison. Today, the combined annual revenue of the top 100 Black owned businesses in America is roughly $30 billion. Sounds like a lot, but let's compare that to Walmart. One company brings in over $400 billion a year. Nike, over $36 billion annually. It's not just that there are fewer Black entrepreneurs, it's that we face systematic barriers that make it even harder to grow and scale our businesses. We're talking about things like access to capital. In 2024, Black owned businesses or Black owned beauty brands raised just $16 million. That's down from $73 million in 2022. There are scaling challenges where without capital, it's almost impossible to hire and expand. What about market access, where we can secure shelf space and have consumer visibility in our retail stores? That's still a fight. This is what we mean when we say success isn't just about hard work, because hard work without access is like trying to build a house without tools. So let's talk about social capital, the invisible hand that moves people forward. If your cousin can hook you up with an internship, or if your neighbor refers you for a contract, if your parents can connect you with a mentor, you move faster. These are those quiet advantages that shape lives, and they're rarely acknowledged when we celebrate someone as self made. This isn't about hustle, it's about who gets seen, who gets trusted, and ultimately who gets supported. And we've got to challenge the idea that asking for help is asking for a handout. Help is infrastructure. It's good schools. It's affordable childcare, accessible health care, a fair financial system. When those things are in place, then effort matters. When they're not, success becomes a lottery. If we want a society where hard work really pays off, we have to level the field. That means targeted investments where marginalized communities are. That causes for bold reforms in criminal justice and affordable housing and tax reforms. It needs to be a strong anti discrimination policy that removes these barriers for everybody. So here's the truth: nobody can make it alone. Every success story has a cast of mentors, breaks, second chances, third chances, and access. And it's time we tell this story and tell it honestly, not to discredit those who've made it, but to build a future where more people can, and not just the lucky few. We'll be right back.
What does it mean to be rich? For some, it's a number in a bank account. For others, it's the peace of knowing their family is safe, fed, and cared for. But as we look around, we see a troubling truth. The privilege of choosing which restaurant to eat at, leaving a tip, or driving home to a stable roof isn't shared by everyone. Wealth and poverty aren't just numbers, they're lived experiences, shaped by policies and systems that often favor the few over the many. The gap between the wealthy and the struggling has widened over the years, not by accident but by design, and it's hurting all of us. When inequality grows unchecked, it affects more than just the people at the bottom. It stifles opportunity, fuels division, and even threatens our democracy. We see it in rising costs, stagnant wages, and opportunities that are out of reach for too many. This is why Rodney LaBruce is running for Congress. To fight for a future where opportunity isn't determined by your zip code, your background, or your bank account. A future where hard work is rewarded and no one is left behind. It's not enough to talk about inequality. We need solutions. From fair taxation to better education, stronger labor protections, and investments in our communities, we can close the gap. We can rebuild trust in our institutions and restore hope in the American dream. Imagine a society where everyone has the chance to thrive, not just survive. Where the wealth we create together is shared in ways that lift us all. This is more than a campaign. It's a movement to build a fairer, stronger, and more united future. In our envisioned future, when a child is born, their prospects won't be limited by their parents' income or their neighborhood's resources. Schools in every district will be well-funded, ensuring every child receives a quality education that paves the way for a brighter future. Jobs will offer fair wages and benefits, reflecting the value of the work performed. Healthcare will be accessible and affordable, so no one has to choose between paying rent or seeing a doctor. By addressing these core issues, we can create a ripple effect that benefits everyone. When families are stable, communities are stronger. When workers are supported, businesses thrive. When education is prioritized, innovation flourishes. And when healthcare is guaranteed, public health improves, lessening the burden on emergency services and creating a healthier society overall. Our policies will ensure that everyone pays their fair share, creating a tax system that supports public services without overburdening the middle class. We'll champion labor rights, ensuring that workers have a voice and that their rights are protected. And we'll invest in infrastructure and technology, creating jobs and modernizing our communities. Together, we can make this vision a reality. We can end the cycles of poverty that have plagued our nation for too long. We can create a society where justice, dignity, and opportunity are not privileges for the few, but rights for all. He is Rodney LaBruce, and he's asking for your support. Together, we can make this vision a reality. Because inequality isn't just about numbers. It's about justice, dignity, and opportunity for all. Join us today at LaBruceForCongress.com.
Paid for by the Rodney LaBruce for Congress Committee. Welcome back. This is Apex Ascend, and my name is Rodney LaBruce. I am your host. This is where we teach lions how to roar. You are that lion. So go out and make your voice heard. In this episode, we've been talking about success and how it's achieved. And one thing we need to do as we come to a conclusion today is we need to stop acting like success is a solo project, because the reality is that nobody makes it alone. Behind every so called self made story, there's a village, there's a mentor, there's a safety net. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and kill that lie that needing help is weakness. Because at the end of the day, help is how you build. And help, that's how we all rise. So here's the truth, y'all. If hard work alone guaranteed success, then every janitor would be a millionaire. Every single mom, they'd own their own business. Every black college graduate would be paid what they're worth. So it's time to once and for all stop worshiping the game of the hustle and start building systems that honor the humanity of all people. Because we're not asking for shortcuts. All we're doing is asking for equal footing. And we're not begging anybody for a break, but we are demanding chance. This has been Apex Ascend. I've been your host, Rodney LaBruce. Come back next week. We'll do it all over again. I'll holler.